we just did a lot of football with Matt. I want to dive into some NBA first because you've got some spots in the NBA that definitely caught your eye. That is not the NBA, but it might as well be. Kon Knueppel, PRA. Why are you looking at Kon Knueppel, the former Dookie?
I'm looking at him for a few reasons. Number one, I believe, now I got to get this right. It was brought up on my show earlier by my co-host, and I'll have to double check it, but he is, I think, 1 3-pointer away from being the fastest rookie to ever hit certain milestones. So I got to look into that. But regardless, usually I don't like to go into milestone situations with player props, but we're getting to that point of the year for NFL where you can start talking about that. NBA wise, I like the spot so much, and it's been something that it's been a slow developing situation. But during this free fall of the Cleveland Cavaliers, where they've lost a lot of depth and rotation pieces, they were getting smashed by point guards religiously, and now you're starting to see that shift over to the shooting guard position, and mainly from a 3-point angle. They have allowed the second most threes to the shooting guard position over the last 7 games. And in that same time frame of these really bad losses, they have allowed the third most points to the shooting guard position as well. So scoring guards have been really, really successful. And now we're at the point of the year where Kon Knueppel, you can argue, is the best player on the Charlotte Hornets. No Colin Sexton tonight, no Kalkbrenner either down low. So they will be forced to just give the ball to Knueppel and let him ride. Also, I think that you're starting to see, so we don't have a good sample of this, but since the games, he's played 2 games since coming back from injury, has LaMelo Ball, and we saw him play 23 minutes in his last game. I think that that's clearly due to a blowout of 30 points to the Detroit Pistons. So what I'm trying to say is a long-winded way of saying LaMelo Ball on the court helps Kon Knueppel, and I do think that should free up some more space and get him some open looks. And I think the overall spot for Knueppel is one of the best on the card tonight.
Okay, I like it, and I like that the splits with LaMelo Ball are included. I always love seeing what happens when he's on and off the floor. Dating back to last year, the splits are pretty drastic when it comes to certain players. Kon Knueppel was not one of them last year, but this year it makes a ton of sense. Speaking of good spots, Anthony Davis, you said to me earlier, revenge spot. Well, Anthony Davis played for the Los Angeles Lakers in between his time in New Orleans. We still care about New Orleans?
I think to a certain degree. Now, again, it's long-winded, right? But I think it's more important when a player who is a veteran goes back to a place where he started. And I think that you have that here in this spot. Take whatever you want aside. This is also the closest spread of the night, too. It's a 1-point spread. Open Dallas, but now it's New Orleans -1. Whereas the majority of the games tonight have double-digit spreads in classic NBA fashion. So with that said, I think that the main point that I want to highlight here is not necessarily defense versus position, but I want to really, really preference that this is the first time in the NBA this year that a team, a defense, is allowing more restricted area shots than the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls have been the worst team in the restricted area the entire year, but today specifically, New Orleans is now the worst team in the NBA in the restricted area. And that, if you filter players that are active, so Giannis always ranks first in the NBA by a considerable margin. It's 3 or 4 more field goals made than the next player. But if you take him out because he's not playing, he's not active right now, Anthony Davis would be number 1 in the NBA from the restricted area per game from that zone. So I think that you factor that in more than the narrative. It's a fun narrative to talk about, but you factor that in. You factor that some of the Dallas guys are still questionable. You got Cooper Flagg, who might not play in this game. So, I think that Davis is an underlooked asset tonight.
What's the prop?
Points. I think you can go points, rebounds, but I do think that it's more of a point scoring spot than anything else.
Jimmy in 34. Flagg might be hungover from his birthday yesterday.
Hey, I mean, look, Dallas has they play on Christmas, right? I think I just checked on that earlier. So they would have 3 games in 4 nights, which obviously, if you're Flagg, you're probably not playing one of these games the next 2 days.
Denver Stars, you said also. I know that the Nuggets home against the Jazz tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern time, but they're laying a hefty number at 13, Denver.
They are.
You're not worried about a blowout factor?
I mean, look, I think that's It's definitely a cause for concern. It's definitely a red flag bullet point when all said and done, and I can't dispute that. What I can say is that they have a team high implied team total. It's 132 points. It opened at 127. There aren't very many times, I think maybe like 10 to 15 total, and that's even probably overestimating how many times we actually see that number up that high. And then on top of it, like I can name several things, and I will go into them, but like most notably, this game total is 250 points, which is insane. For those of you who don't follow the NBA or maybe like are out of touch on like these high implied game totals, not too long ago had we started to see all-star over-unders over 250, and now we're getting them in real life games. And I remember when like 210 was considered high. So yeah, it's crazy how fast things are. Not only that, but the pace of play situation is the highest on the card in terms of differentials. Utah runs at the second fastest pace of play in the NBA, and that only that basically equates to a higher average of possessions per game, which means more scoring and more peripheral stat opportunities. I think this is just a monstrous Joker slash Jamal Murray spot. And on top of that, like still no Aaron Gordon, still no Christian Brown. We might not get Peyton Watson the 4 in this game. So you're going to have to rely on a lot of star power and star potential. And that's why I typed it the way that I did. On top of that, the Jazz are the worst team in the league against opposing point guards. So I think Joker's going to get his. Like his line is like 65 fantasy points. So I didn't include that for that reason because that's insane. But I do like Jamal Murray a lot.
I know I'm taking us back to the previous game, but the chat keeps bringing up Derek Queen. We love Derek Queen. We got onto Derek Queen very early into the season. Now the book's caught on. How much would you take a Derek Queen prop tonight?
Yeah, let me pull up my trends. He wasn't really a guy that I'm kind of
The
fading
market
New
now has
Orleans.
completely mini jokered him with the outrun
Yeah,
Şengün stuff like a few years ago. Now they've caught on, and now it's going to be too high for a player that doesn't deserve to be too high, but he's so good.
he's very good, very promising. He should take that Şengün leap here in the next 2 or 3 years. It all kind of depends on what New Orleans does with their injury talk. We've seen both Queen and
Shocker.
Jeremiah Fears. They've both dropped off. Well, Fears more than Queen have dropped off minutes wise. They're playing a lot of Sadiq Bey. They're playing a lot of Trey Murphy. That's fine. But Zion and Jordan Poole are back, and that's kind of soaking everything up right now. And that's why you see that Queen, the book is doing this thing where they're keeping Queen right where the public thinks that he should be, though I don't know if he's really should be there right now. So that's kind of why I'm hesitant. But if you want something, it was on my prop trends list that I post every day. It's
Yeah, I need to
free
catch
on
that.
X.
Yep.
It's 13 plus rebounds and assists. He's hit that 5 of his past 6. So if there was something to do that with, it would be this one.